Amazon promised us an age. We got 3 seasons. Then, the wheels stopped turning. With the Wheel of Time now officially cancelled, the vast majority of Robert Jordan's groundbreaking narrative will never make it to the screen. And that's not just disappointing, it's devastating. Because while the first 3 seasons laid the groundwork, the real power of the story hadn't even begun to unfold. We're not just missing a finale, we're losing political upheaval, metaphysical transformation, tragic betrayals, and the single most spectacular final battle fantasy television ever dared to imagine. These aren't just plot lines, they're the soul of the saga. And now, they're gone. Here are 15 Wheel of Time storylines the cancellation just killed, and why fans can't forgive Amazon for cutting the pattern short. The Stone of Tyr and the Sword That Is Not a Sword. In the books, the Stone of Tyr is the first true proof that Rand al'Thor is the Dragon Reborn. Drawing the sword Kalandor, a glowing crystalline sangreal so powerful it terrifies even Randine, marks the beginning of his rise not just as a hero, but as a symbol. This scene, steeped in prophecy and myth, was a narrative keystone. The fortress itself, built with the one power and designed to be impenetrable, is a marvel of Jordan's architectural world-building, and the act of claiming Kalandor should have been thunderous. But the show skipped it. There was no fall of the stone, no moment of triumph or dread, no boundless surge of power. We never saw Rand take the blade that would one day be used to challenge the Dark One himself. That's not a missing scene, that's a missing soul. The Elfin and Eelfinn. Some of the most mind-bending elements of the Wheel of Time come not from the One Power or the Forsaken, but from the otherworldly. The Elfin and Eelfinn, strange beings from another dimension, offer answers and gifts in exchange for emotional energy. Through them, Rand, Mat, and Moraine each receive insights that shape the entire outcome of the last battle. Rand's visit gives him the knowledge to cleanse saidin. Mat loses his eye and gains a future. Moraine returns with power enough to tip the scales. These creatures don't just further the plot, they are the plot. They are the engines of destiny. And now we'll never see them, never hear their riddles, never feel the spine show of a bargain struck with beings who feed on your fears. Their absence is a gaping hole in the pattern. Dumai's Wells. This was meant to be the moment. Dumai's Wells is not just another battle, it's the scene that shatters the illusion of control within the White Tower, within Rand and within the world itself. Captured and imprisoned by Aes Sedai, Rand is brutalized, caged, and made to feel powerless, until he explodes, both metaphorically and literally. When the Ashaman arrive, when the skies darken with the unleashed rage of saidin, the world changes. The earth splits, people die screaming. And those words, "Kneel and swear to the Lord Dragon or you will be knelt," become legend. It's not just a set piece, it's a turning point. It was the moment Rand stopped being the Dragon Reborn and became it. It would have elevated the show to an entirely new narrative gear, a revelation of power, trauma, and horror. The fact that we'll never witness it on screen is a wound in the pattern that can't be healed. The cleansing of saidin. For hundreds of years, the male half of the One Power has been tainted, causing madness, death, and terror. The entire world fears men who can channel because of this corruption. And then, in one of the most daring, metaphysically complex scenes in fantasy literature, Rand and Nynaeve cleanse it. They use linked weaves, impossible sangreal, and the true power itself to purify saidin in an event that threatens to tear reality apart. It's a moment of cosmic weight, filled with risk and sacrifice. The Forsaken try to stop them. The pattern groans, but they succeed. It's the moment the war changes, the moment hope returns. Visually, it would have been one of the most jaw-dropping sequences ever produced in fantasy television. And now, we'll never see it. Egwene's rise to Amerlin's seat. Egwene al'Vir begins as an innkeeper's daughter and ends as a revolutionary Amerlin's seat. Her rise, marked by defiance, brilliance, and pain, is one of the most rewarding arcs in the entire series. She leads a rebel tower, resists torture, redefines what it means to be Aes Sedai, and brings unity through sheer moral will. In a story filled with powerful women, Egwene's evolution is perhaps the most profound. She doesn't rise because of prophecy, she rises because of who she is. Her confrontation with Elaida, her resilience in the face of captivity, and her eventual leadership would have made her one of the most compelling figures in modern television. And now, the Amerlin seat of the Rebel Tower will never rise. Mat Cauthen's transformation into the general of the last battle. Mat was always the rogue, the gambler, the man who ran from fate, but over the course of the books he becomes something else entirely, the tactical heart of the last battle. Through ancient memories implanted by the Eelfinn, through hard-won experience, through leadership he never wanted but can't avoid, Mat becomes the great general of the end times. His journey is filled with absurdity, chaos, and tragedy. He loses an eye, he gains a future, and he leads with instinct and brilliance. We were just beginning to see him emerge from the fog of Shadar Logoth's curse, and now we'll never see the band of the Red Hand. We'll never see Mat laughing into the face of death, or rescuing Moiraine from another world, or blowing the horn of Valir in a storm of memory and fire. We'll never see the boy become the legend. Perrin's struggle between wolf and man. Perrin Ibarra's journey was never meant to be loud, but it was profound. He is the quiet one, the blacksmith, the protector, but deep within him lives something ancient and terrifying: the wolf. His link to the world of dreams, his growing struggle to accept the animal within, his hesitation to kill, to lead, to love. These define one of the most emotionally complex arcs in the entire saga. We'll never see his trial under the weight of hammer and an axe. Never see his love for Fail tested to its limits. Never see the moment he chooses to be both man and wolf, and in doing so becomes something greater than either. Without Perrin's full story, the Wheel of Time loses its heart and its balance. The return of Moiraine and Tom to the Eelfinn realm. In one of the most stunning and emotional arcs, Moiraine, thought dead or lost, returns, but not before enduring captivity in the strange realm of the Eelfinn, drained, changed, and diminished in power. Her rescue by Mat and Thom isn't just a mission, it's a redemption, a love story long left unspoken, a promise fulfilled. The realm of the Eelfinn is a place of riddles, bargains, and shadows that should never be trusted. It's one of Jordan's most unsettling creations. The daring rescue through twisted logic and impossible stakes would have been a season-defining moment. It's a heist, a sacrifice, and a farewell to who these characters used to be. We never got that rescue, never got that reunion, never got the full arc of Moraine's sacrifice answered. The Black Tower and the rise of the Asha'man. The White Tower may be ancient and revered, but the Black Tower, home of the Asha'man, is raw, volatile, and absolutely essential to the final chapters of the Wheel of Time. Created as a safe haven for male channelers under Rand's command, it becomes something darker. Corruption spreads, the Forsaken infiltrate, and the very place built to restore balance begins to crumble under the weight of madness and ambition. Led by Logain Ablar, a man whose fall and rise mirror the series' larger struggle with power and identity, the Asha'man become the wild card in the war to come. Their loyalty is unpredictable, their strength is terrifying, and their role in the last battle is undeniable. Without the Black Tower storyline, the show loses a critical counterpart to the Aes Sedai, and loses one of its most morally complicated and compelling subplots. Lan Mandragoran's last ride. Lan is more than a warder. He is a king without a throne, a sword without rest, a man bound to duty and sorrow in equal measure. His arc, defined by sacrifice, loyalty, and tragic restraint, builds toward one of the most iconic scenes in the entire series, his final ride to reclaim Malkier. Surrounded by death, driven by honor, Lan leads a doomed charge against impossible odds. It's a moment not just of heroism, but of fulfillment. He has lived for this, and in the end, it's not magic, prophecy, or fate that defines him. It's choice. We'll never see it. Never hear the final call of Malkier. Never watch him ride with nothing but steel and defiance. It is perhaps the most poetic death never filmed. The return of the heroes of the Horn. In a world built on memory and rebirth, the Horn of Valir stands as the most powerful symbol of what binds the ages together. It's not merely an ancient relic or a magical trinket. It is the summons of legend. When blown, it calls forth the greatest warriors, kings, and champions the wheel has ever turned out. not as ghosts, not as visions, but as flesh and blood, returned to fight again. These are the heroes of the pattern: Birgitte Silverbow, Gaidel Kane, and countless others whose names are whispered in tales and songs across nations. They rise not from pride, not from command, but from purpose. They return when the pattern requires them, when the shadow threatens to unravel all that has ever been. Among them is Arthur Hawkwing, the once emperor of a united Westlands, a man whose legacy shaped history and whose sword hand still hungers for justice. His reappearance in the last battle is nothing short of divine. When he rides into war with 1,000 other legends at his back, it is myth made muscle. And that moment, that sound, the blowing of the horn, is the single most spine-tingling, soul-affirming call to arms in fantasy literature. In the show we were teased, the horn passed from hand to hand. It was name-dropped, its significance hinted at, but it was never blown. Its note never rang out across the battlefield. Its heroes never rose. And now, with the show's cancellation, they never will. The loss of this scene is more than missing content. It's the erasure of a foundational truth in the Wheel of Time: that the past always walks beside us, that courage is eternal, and that even in the face of darkness, the dead may rise, not to haunt, but to save. The last battle, Termagaidan. This was it. This was the point toward which every prophecy, every dream, every sacrifice was building. The last battle. Termagaidan was not just the climax of the saga, it was the culmination of everything the story stood for: balance, choice, identity, and fate. A battle not just of armies, but of ideas. A war fought in fire and steel and silence and shadows. But it wasn't confined to a battlefield. The war stretched across realities. In the Blight, Rand would confront the Dark One at the edge of nothingness, in a duel not of swords, but of truths. In the waking world, armies would clash, the dragon's forces against the dark tide of Trollocs, Fades, and the Forsaken. In Teleron Riode, the world of dreams, heroes would shape reality with will alone. And in the White Tower, Egwene would stand as the last light of unity, only to make a final choice that redefined the meaning of sacrifice. Every character reached their endgame. Perrin navigating the wolf within, Mat commanding chaos with gambler's instinct, Moraine returning with more than wisdom, returning changed, diminished but unshakable, Lan riding to death for love and duty, and Rand, the dragon reborn, stepping into the void not to destroy the Dark One, but to choose not to destroy him. Because that was the truth of Termagaidan, that salvation lies not in domination, but in balance. Rand wins not by killing, but by understanding, by rejecting the false choice of annihilation or enslavement, by accepting that free will is what gives the pattern meaning. It would have been the most visually and emotionally ambitious sequence in fantasy television history, a metaphysical climax wrapped in war, prophecy, and heartbreak. It would have shown us that stories don't end in explosions, they end in choice. But the show never made it there. And with its absence, we lost not just an ending, but the ending, the one every thread was leading to, the battle that proved not who was strongest, but who understood why they fought. And that is a silence no horn can break. Final thoughts. The Wheel of Time's cancellation didn't just end a show, it halted an age. It left arcs incomplete, heroes unfinished, and a prophecy unfulfilled. These storylines weren't optional, they were the spine of the saga. Their loss isn't a small disappointment, it's a gaping hole in the soul of modern fantasy television. And for those who knew what was coming, the grief is doubled. Because we didn't just lose what was, we lost what should have been. But the wheel turns, and maybe, one day, it will bring us back here.